Hello and welcome to Take the Black, your one and only fantasy podcast that goes deep into the world of Westeros, Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, House of the Dragon, of course, and lots of other fantasy and sci-fi stuff. But for today, we're all about that House of the Dragon Season 3 finale. I am Daniel Roman, the editor of winteriscoming.net, and I'm delighted, as always, to be joined by my co-host, Marq Nettles of House of Nettles. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, y'all. I'm ready. We finally got to the end of Hot D. I think we all have a lot of thoughts for this season finale, and I think I'm ready to discuss them. And but real quick, I have this question. I feel like this is a trope in my head, and it's from this episode.
Okay.
When someone breaks their teeth, that's it for them. Like, they're not going to be in the let it be a movie, let it be a TV show. As soon as somebody breaks their teeth, because nobody wants to do those prosthetics all the time for that. I'm like, so you're out the whatever you're watching.
Yeah, I think that's. I'm so curious where this is coming. Who broke their teeth? I'm blanking on the teeth break. But yeah, I guess that's usually a sign. If your teeth are getting broken in a fight scene or something, it's not looking good for you.
Yeah, that's what I imagine when Ormond was getting his behind whooped at first by Roddy the Ruin. His teeth, like, he put that shield in his mouth, and I'm like, oh, his teeth are messed up. You saw all that blood coming out of his mouth. I'm like, that's not good.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. That's is Ormond gonna get that sort of prosthetics? Probably not. That was probably this is Ormond's hour. If you're gonna break a character's teeth on screen, it's got to work into the arc. And I don't know if Ormond's ready for that arc.
No. Well, obviously he's not ready for that arc. There will be no more arcs for Ormond as we talk about all the craziness in this season finale.
That's funny. I'm trying to think of other characters that's happened to, and Game of Thrones didn't do that for Reek. So because I guess they didn't want to deal with the prosthetics. So there you go.
Yeah, how do you have fake broken teeth all the time? That's very hard to try to portray on the screen.
It's true. There's so many ways it could look fake, But yeah, so obviously, House of the Dragon Season 3 finale, the treasons at Tumbleton, did not go very well for Ormond, did not go very well for a whole lot of people. We're going to get into it. But here at the top, I just want your broad overview, Mark. What did you think of this finale? Do you think they stuck the landing for the season? Do you think they pulled off Tumbleton, Rhaenyra, all this stuff? There was a lot going on. It wasn't just Tumbleton. What did you think? Did you like it?
Yes. I thought it was a good finale for this season, but I feel like they left a lot of meat on the bones for a lot of characters. Where it's like maybe for me it felt maybe a little too late for their character arc for a sudden change, in my opinion. And for others, it's like, this seems like an odd place to end this for certain characters we're going to discuss. So for me, it's good ending. I enjoyed Tumbleton, enjoyed Rhaenyra's turn, but a lot of meat on the bone for some characters.
Interesting. Yeah, I really want to hear your thoughts about this. So I loved the finale. I thought it was awesome, but I do totally kind of feel what you mean about a lot of meat on the bone for certain characters. I feel like they really focused on the characters they wanted to deliver the big moments for in this finale, and everybody else kind of got pushed to the side, characters like Bela and Adam of Hall. We didn't see Rhaena at all this episode. I feel like Hugh got a pretty low focus in this episode, which book reader Dan is very where was Hugh during the treasons at Tumbleton? I know where he was, but he played a very small part in arguably his most important moment in the entire book. But at the same time, the episode was so good that I kind of want to forgive it. So yeah, we got so much to talk about. So do we want to start in Tumbleton? Do we want to work up to it? How you feeling?
You know what? I think we got to give the people what they want. Let's just start in Tumbleton. That's what people came here for the episode to listen to anyway.
Yeah, it's true. And we can bounce around a little if we want to, because that's what the episode did. So yeah, Tumbleton, there's the big build up into the battle. Lots of good stuff with the negotiation with the sea snake, I thought was so good. Other stuff like Darren getting knighted was a little weird to me. What did you think of that? He's a character who feels like meat on the bone a little bit. Really underutilized here in the finale.
We never got to see him maybe stand up a little bit to Ormond or have a little of that a little defiance in him. I know he got the moniker Daeron the Daring, and it did feel like they were playing up like, hey, Ormond is giving you this moniker to make you seem like a true king for Westeros. You need people to believe that he's this great mighty dragon rider that's going to right the wrongs of the other part of House Targaryen. And at least in the television show, didn't really earn the nickname, just something kind of given to him. Even the vows for his knighthood seemed off. It wasn't I know we only seen people be knighted, 2 times before that, but it felt like he had his own little words given to him. I'm like, oh, okay. Does this even count? If we're going to make up our own words.
Yeah, well, I'd have to go look. I think some of the words they used are like the actual words from A Song of Ice and Fire. Like, because I think that with Brienne's knighting and possibly Raymond Fossaway's, they condensed some of the words. So like you will protect all women and children, I think is like an actual part of the knighting vow in the lore that they did away with in the shows before this. But and I might be wrong, and commenters obviously call me out if I am, but I they really kind of made it all about the hypocrisy of it here, which is a little sad for Darren the Daring, because he gets knighted. They included this line about you will protect all women and children as a knight. And then in the very 2 scenes later, Ormond is putting kids on the ramparts. And of course, I believe Ormond is also a knight. So yeah, showing just how hollow those vows can be in the wrong hands. Yeah, I was sad that he didn't earn it. I guess I like that they made it we know that Ormond was already using it for propaganda, Darren the Daring, because the assassin in King's Landing said it a few episodes ago. So it's like he's been testing out the name for propaganda, and now he's giving it to Darren. I don't know. It made me sad that we didn't get to see the bolder Darren, as the way he's presented in the book, riding his dragon and stuff.
I just knew he was going to take that dragon off that chain and say, I'm going to do something, or if not, be involved a little bit in the fighting on the ground level. And it was like, oh, no, still to the side. Daeron, corner of the room, Daeron.
Corner of the room, Darren. Yeah, he definitely... I obviously, I don't think he's dead. They left it surprisingly ambiguous. At the end of the battle, we just see Gwaine crawling across the ground calling for Darren, but I don't think there's any way they introduce Darren and not have him get on to Sarian once in this show.
You know what? That'll be even more meta. He died, and they're trying to figure out a way to keep this Green Coalition going, and all you have is these other baseboard dragon riders still there in Tumbleton, possibly.
Yep. So yeah, Darren, I liked what we got of him, but I wanted a lot more. I guess they kind of wrote themselves into a corner a little bit, though, with Darren and Tessarion, because if they had actually gotten loose and gone and flown to fight, Caraxes probably would have chomped them to bits. And, Caraxes is not there in the book. The only dragons are the ones that betray her and are on Darren's side, so he's not outmatched. But if he went and started attacking the Blacks here, I don't know how that would have gone for him. But yeah, he's a character I agree with you. I wanted a lot more out of. Who else do you wish we saw more of in this finale?
In Tumbleton, maybe I wish we would have saw a little bit more of Oscar Tully down there in the scuffle. I know he was controlling the flank of Team Black's army, so he wasn't going to be up at the walls in that moment. But think we really got to see him too much involved in any fight, so this would have been a great opportunity. And also, Black Alley, she had about 4 lines. Did they say her name yet, or maybe once?
No.
That was just for the fan. I think they name dropped the Garibald the Grey this episode.
How we name dropping Garibald the Grey, and we haven't name dropped Black Alley, and she's been in the whole season. Yeah, you're totally right. They did, and I did have an moment when they dropped Garibald the Grey's name. But yeah, I didn't even connect that they still haven't said Black Alley's name. She got a line at least, I guess.
She's involved in the conversation. Didn't get to be in charge of anything, but she was there involved.
She's there. Yeah.
But those probably the ones I were like, okay, I wish we would have got more of them. But I was happy with what we got in that conversation between Gwaine, who brought Corlys to treat with Team Black's army. Gwaine was like, hey, why don't we? There has to be some, instead of mutually assured destruction, why don't we think of a way to divide the realm? And I know in the books, I want to say that was probably more of Corlys whose plan was, why don't we just divide the realm instead of doing all this extra fighting?
So unless I'm mistaken, I think it's Alicent, actually.
Alicent.
And I like the way the show did it in a way where it actually feels more plausible. So Alicent says this to Rhaenyra when Alicent's still her prisoner, because she didn't go on this half-cocked mission to Harrenhal in the books. She finds out that Rhaenyra is dispatching Hugh and Ulf to Tumbleton, and Daemon and Nettles to the Riverlands to go essentially kill Daeron and Aemond. So she comes to beg for her son's lives, and she says, "Split the realm." But Rhaenyra just kind of rejects it because it's a desperate move on Alicent's part. There's a picture from the book of Alicent in this scene where she's like on her knees begging in front of the Iron Throne. Like that's that scene. This way, I love that it was like a rolling negotiation where Gwaine says it. Daemon just wants to kill a bunch of people. Like it's not, there's so much focus on Rhaenyra hitting her darkest point in this episode, but Daemon also finally gets the chance to kind of let his worst impulses out. And then by the end of the episode kind of gets shell-shocked back from it, where it's like, what have we done? But he rejects it. And then Corlys is the one who's like, what if we did this thing in the middle? So if there's a minute there's a second where it's like, could that have worked?
Such a good idea. Like, hey, we'll give you a lesser title than a king, but you still have a little domain that you can rule from. You can rule from Old Town. You can make your old castle. But as long as you stay over there and still pay homage to the Iron Throne and Dragonstone and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it probably was the out. It was the out that everybody should have taken. But by that point, there are people on each side who just want the damn battle. They just want the bloodshed more than they want to find a way through this thing, because that was a pretty legitimate route, except of course the point that Daemon makes, which is, what will Aegon think of this? Because of course a big part of this episode is everybody finding out Aegon is still alive. Aegon's supporters are all sending each other ravens. Rhaenyra's having a full-blown panic attack about it until she decides she's gonna go murder the High Septon, because what could go wrong? So I guess the plan would never have worked, but Daemon didn't want it to work anyway.
It was never going to work. And Aegon was the big wrench in everything. He really messes up the board. It's like, oh, what do we do about Aegon? Well, he's not going to bend the knee for sure.
Yep, totally. And of course, the other wrench in this board, in Tumbleton specifically, is Ulf. So while all of this is going on, Ormond is scrambling around inside the walls. He's putting kids on the walls to just stall for time. And, his whole strategy is, if the Blacks are going to attack Tumbleton, make them seem as monstrous as possible while they're doing it. But then Ulf, the Dragon Rider, who is supposed to be Ormond's ace in the hole, just ain't around. And we, the viewer, have seen he was getting wasted at the start of the episode. I really like that scene of Ulf. I feel like he's done a pretty good turn from affable, likable, drunkard Ulf to like Ulf's a little scary here.
Yeah, the man that controls the dragon, talking about treason against Daemon, talking about how he's not gonna fight, not gonna use his dragon, how he's gonna be the one to go out there and do all the burning. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
Now, for a split second, and I know he disappears because he was drunk in the bathroom with his pants around his ankles. I was like, are they trying to play it up that Ulf is outsmarting Ormond? Did Ulf only pretend to do all that treason to only double back and go back to Team Black? Like, no, he was just legitimately drunk in the urinal, in the stall.
Yeah. I wondered if they were going to take the beat from the second Battle of Tumbleton. So this is a book spoiler, but I think we can talk about it here because it's relevant to this episode. There was a lot of speculation before this episode of, are they going to combine first and second Tumbleton? There are two battles there in the book. They're both really important, but House of the Dragons got one season left. We didn't really know how they were going to play it. Ulf sleeping through the battle because he's so drunk is a beat from the second Battle of Tumbleton. That's what happens to him there. So when he just wasn't there and he was drunk, I was like, are they making Ulf sleep through this battle and then Hugh will betray or something? Because in the book, it's Ulf and Hugh are the two betrayers who betray the Blacks. But yeah, no. Ormond finds him. Ormond humiliates the shit out of him while he's got his pants around his ankles. What could go wrong? Yeah. It's a big episode for Ulf the White.
It really makes you think of what is Ulf going to do. Everyone saw, and I know we had Sabbath the Frey at the beginning of the season talking about how Dragonfire isn't, sometimes it burns other things around you, but we all clearly saw him on Silverwing not only burn Team Black's army in the field, but turn around to the castle and start burning away. Like, do you go back to Team Green's side? Do you tell them, hey, it was only a mistake? I was trying to burn the Winter Wolves that made it over the wall, and would they believe that? Because they do need dragon riders, and their dragon riders are hard to come by. It's not like they're just anyone can claim a dragon unless you got a lot of gumption to you.
Yeah, right. I think that is a corner that the show has written itself into, that I'm sure they have a plan for how they are going to move through it, because that is a huge change. And not to just constantly be comparing to the book, but I think it's helpful when we talk about the plot points for Tumbleton in particular, because in the book, the Blacks control Tumbleton, the Greens are attacking it. So when Ulf and Hugh betray and attack the Blacks, they burn Tumbleton. Here, Ulf just goes off. He's attacking the Blacks. He's attacking the Greens. I don't know if he tries to play it off like Silverwing got out of control, or if I don't know if his ego would allow him to do that, because after this, presumably we'll have just like the remnants of whoever's left on the Greens in Tumbleton. And there's a prolonged period in the book where they're bickering over who will lead them and stuff like this, while Ulf is living it up during the sack of Tumbleton in horrifying ways. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what they'll do with Ulf next, because this was a pretty big choice, both for the writers, but also for Ulf, to make him attack both sides.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see that part of it play out. And it was also fun though to see who was also attacking during that fight, and we got to see the Winter Wolves finally in action from start to finish. And shout out to Daemon for, when they realized Ulf wasn't there, completely changing the game plan. He's like, so that's, he's a good battle technician in terms of that. He's like, okay, well, we'll just send the Winter Wolves. Righty Ruin, are y'all still ready to die for the Dragon Queen? They're like, it can't fucking wait. I'm like, I can't fucking wait either. Let's go die for her. Let's go.
Yeah, they were a total highlight of the episode. I'm so glad. Roddy the Ruin has felt so underutilized all season, and I think a lot of this is just it's a product of, they have the shorter episode count than Thrones. They're making some choices about where they're focusing. They want to give us a certain amount of Oedipus per season. So we got less Roddy the Ruin than I would have liked, but this episode really paid it off. I felt like they really gave him his moment in the spotlight at the Battle of Tumbleton. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, it didn't hit me on my first watch just how cold of a thing that is for Daemon, where it's like, oh, they put children on the ramparts. We can't just burn this fortified position anymore. Well, I know you guys are down to die. Are you game to go charge that? Because it's basically like most of you will die doing it, like is the implication. And the Winter, like Roddy the Ruin doesn't even blink, because that's their whole thing is, they're old men. It eases the burden on their families to go south and war instead of staying home for the winter. And it's a one-way trip for them. They want to die glorious deaths.
100%. That was a long way for all those old men to be running. I'm like, that's like over 100 yards, Damon. They need to stretch first, get a little lubrication going on the muscles. And it was good seeing him be one of the first. Real different. First over the walls, and he had an axe that was rated E for everyone, because when that small child hit him on the foot, I'm like, oh, is he gonna let the child kind of get away and try to scuttle? Nope, straight to the face, to the face.
As much as that's a moment of like, man, maybe Roddy's not the good guy I thought he was. Like, he's not a good guy. Like, he just wants to kill a bunch of people and get killed. Like, he's definitely in that berserker mindset. But yeah, the child kill, I was torn on too, but also like that kid hit him first. And I feel like we've had a few examples in various medieval fantasy things of the person letting a kid get away who was trying to hit them, and then that kid that came back to bite them in the ass. So I don't blame you, Roddy. It's the thick of battle. You did what you had to do. It's Ormond and Ryan Condal who put those kids on the wall. It's not you.
They put him in front of that dragon too. And at least Daemon let them, when Daemon was trying to storm the gates and burst it open using Carax's dragon fire and Carax's thick behind skull. The Team Green put kids at the gate, and Daemon told them to move. And there were two kids that tried to hold their ground, but they did. I'm happy they jumped out the way before Daemon hit him with that Dracarys. But, from the end of time, I would love to tell people about how I stood my ground as an 8-year-old to a dragon.
Yeah, I mean, that's, Roddy the Ruin would be proud. It's a good way to go if you're going to go, I guess. But yeah, this episode did such a good job, I think, of mixing the fist pump, oh, that's awesome action moments with like this is like the most terrible thing ever moments. It really doesn't let you get too far one way or the other, because it can't, if it goes too far toward this is all awful, like it just becomes hard to watch, hard to have fun watching. And that's, this is their big finale send off, and they're already doing heavy stuff with Rhaenyra. So they needed, there were more like bits of levity in this episode than usual. Almost, I feel like I laughed a little bit more here from Roddy, from Ormond, and all from Ormond's gag reflex kicking in at just the worst times. I feel like they had some good humor in this episode, but then the flip side is the action, and Caraxes coming through the gate is definitely that.
Yeah, definitely, like you said, a lot of lighthearted moments. That fight between Roddy the Ruin and Ormond, epic. The fact that Ormond was about to win, if not for his severe adverse to smell from the Daemon talking down on Gwen, like those are like more lighthearted moments. And then when you really see the fighting, the action, seeing the aftermath of what Dragonfire means to people in general, let alone non-combatants, just the small folks that were trying to live their lives, trying to hide. And when I saw those small folks hide in that straw wicker basket, I'm like, oh, that's not the place to be with a dragon.
Totally had the same thought, like maybe not there.
Yeah, seeing all the people burned after Daemon was just looking around after trying to find John Roxton again after getting his ass beat. And it was not a good sight, and not a good sight for Daemon getting his ass beat.
No, the aftermath I think they did a good job with. Definitely called to mind the bells a little bit from Game of Thrones, where Drogon wrecked King's Landing, except here it's more sudden. There's not this big extended sequence where you have to sit with it for 20 minutes. It's like it happened. Daemon wakes up, and it's just awful. The prosthetics for some of the people of Tumbleton were really haunting. I think, you know, people walking around without hands and with their hair all burned off, and whew. Um, I want to ask you about John Roxton. That's something they added. That's not in the book, obviously. I think it's been pretty universally well received that Daemon got to duel John Roxton and got his ass beat. Did you enjoy it?
Did I enjoy David losing? No. And you know what? I wish the show would have highlighted that fight a little more, maybe letting everything go silent, because we got to see two Valyrian steel swords clash.
Yeah.
And that's never happened in this whole series, and let alone, I'm trying to think in the series. I know we haven't read it from a POV. It happens during the Blackfire Rebellion with Knight from House Corbray and Daemon Blackfire, but I can't think of another instance where we get to see that happen.
I can't think of one off the top of my head either, honestly. You know, there aren't that many Valyrian steel weapons in the Seven Kingdoms, and there are even less that are like commonly used on the battlefield. You know, like ice, the House Stark sword nobody really uses it to fight, or Ned doesn't. I don't know if Cregan does. But yeah, I can't think of a time when we had two Valyrian steel swords going at it, which in the I think it's the House the Dragons built, the behind the scenes series they do for this. That's how they thought to do this duel, essentially.
Oh.
So it was Ryan Condal and T. McKell, who is George R. R. Martin's writing assistant, who also writes for, you know, House of the Dragon and Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. And basically, when they were batting around ideas for Tumbleton, there's an interview with T. McKell where she's like, you know, we had this thought: if Daemon's there, that means Dark Sister's there, and if John Roxton's there, that means Orphan Maker is there. And what would happen if these two warriors with Valyrian steel swords met in the middle of the battle? And like, chef's kiss. Like, that's the sort of show changes, additions, like more of that. That I thought it was a great choice.
And sometimes you do have to have a cool fight. That was a cool fight. Did my Rogue Prince lose? Yes. Do I like that? No, but it's just fun to see sometimes.
Yeah, totally. And it does establish, you know, there are a few sides to this. One is that Roxton is a beast. You know, we haven't really seen him cut loose, aside from, I guess, when the assassins came for Ormond. We saw him and Gwaine wreck some dudes. But here it's like you really get the feeling of, oh, it's not just that Roxton's good. He's really good. Like, and he's big. He's built like Sandor Clegane. Like, you don't want to mess with him unless you're ready for it. But also, Daemon's getting old, you know, like we see him kind of doing some of the typical Daemon Targaryen heroics in battle here, you know, breaking down the gate himself, because the Winter Wolves failed to break down the gate, which I like. I like that the strategy beats for this battle are clear enough that it's like, you know, armchair strategy people love to bitch about, you know, the Battle of the Bastards strategy not making sense, or why did the Dothraki at the Long Night ride off into the darkness? You know, of course they were going to die. There's nothing like that in Tumbleton that I saw. I feel like the show does a really good job of pulling you through the beats, and the Winter Wolves, like, not getting the gate open is one of them. And then Roddy's like, guess I'll just go kill Ormond now. But yeah, Daemon's almost 50. So
yeah,
catches up to him against someone like Roxton.
Yeah, there was a man who's, you know, if you're talking about age as seasons, he's in late fall by this point for his fighting prime. John Roxton's probably a man in his prime, mid-30s, ready to go. It's like, this is a different fighter. This is a different fighter than Daemon's probably faced in a long time.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, I you know, even knowing that there was no way they were going to have John Roxton kill Daemon Targaryen in this battle, I was nervous for a minute. You know, when Daemon's crawling across the ground, I'm like, what is going to happen here? Like, you know, Roxton and Daemon have stuff still to do in the story, but like Daemon's death that we won't spoil on this podcast today from the book is like one of the most iconic parts of the entire book. There's no way they're not doing it. I think they'd be crazy not to. So, but even it's a testament to how well choreographed and filmed and stuff the Roxton fight was, that I had a moment, even knowing that, where it was like, oh shit, is this it for Daemon?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And shout out to Corlys. I like how Corlys freed himself. He probably went to somebody and said, "Yeah, take these chains off me. Let me go in here," and told Daemon, "We gotta go. The battle's lost, man." And he's probably one of the few people that Daemon would listen to on this battlefield. Probably him. Maybe he would respect Oscar Tully a little bit to be like, "I need to go. I need to go
Yeah.
home."
Yeah, totally. That's a good point. If there's anyone there who could pull Daemon out and say, "Hey, time to hit it," it's Corlys. Those two fought for years together in the Stepstones. They are the two most seasoned battle commanders in Westeros at this point in time. Yeah, I was shocked when Daemon ordered Corlys to be his prisoner. After that parlay, when he's just like, "Corlys is my prisoner," and then, like you said, Corlys just frees himself because nobody really takes that. Like, Corlys is Corlys. Like, are we really keeping Corlys prisoner on his own side? The answer is no, obviously.
Yeah, it's like it's time to really do the big boy things now. Like, what do you want us to do, sir? Lord of the Tides.
Yeah. Yep. So the last thing I want to make sure we hit on here at Tumbleton is Hugh. Hugh and the dragons. So in the book, it's Hugh and Ulf betray. Tessarion is out there with Darren too, and then it's 3 dragons on the greens, none on the blacks. It's a massacre. Here, it's much more complicated. Ulf's burning both sides. Hugh comes to the battle. He's ordered to stay in King's Landing by Rhaenyra because she's paranoid Aegon will just come attack the city like first thing. Which, okay, Rhaenyra, sure. Hugh's wife is in Tumbleton though, and Rhaenyra knows this. So Hugh abandons his post and he leaves his dragon and he goes to fight in the city looking for his wife. He doesn't even care about the battle. He just wants to find her. And of course, she died. What are your thoughts on what they did with Hugh in this episode? Because obviously it's probably one of the single biggest changes, I think.
Yeah. And Hugh, it'll go down that Hugh was a traitor as well, because no one's going to believe he abandoned his post to go to the one city that the biggest fight this probably the last few months is happening, to go to Team Green and to go in there and start fighting. Whose side is he fighting on? We just see Hugh fighting in the city. No one could probably really tell if they tried to recall, like, well, he was only fighting Team Green members. Well, he was only fighting Team Black members. Hugh was in there fighting where he wasn't supposed to be. And like you said, yeah, Rhaenyra knows his wife is there, so it's like, okay, he went there to fight on their side for his wife's benefit. And one of the things I was even a little confused about, I was looking, maybe I didn't see it. I wasn't sure if Kat, his wife, was supposed to be dead or knocked out until I saw like the Instagram post from the actress, and she had like the blood on her stomach. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, we didn't see any blood in the episode. Totally.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I don't remember there being blood there, but okay, sure, whatnot. So I guess like that confirmed for me. She was like kind of doing a little farewell post. I'm like, I guess she's supposed, at least for now, they can always, when it's time to think of things, they're like, you know what, let's only have her be injured. Let's bring her back.
Yeah, right. What would happen if Kat was still in Tumbleton? Yeah, I mean, ever since they introduced Kat, I think it's been pretty predictable that she was going to die, for readers at least, because Hugh has this big betrayal. It's like the most important part of his whole character story. It's where Hugh's story really begins, I feel like, is with the betrayal. So they built up to that a lot. All this stuff with Kat, showing bits that Hugh could get darker, like when he tried to like force her to leave the city and she's just like, "Who are you?" I liked all of that. I was surprised that like Hugh just got so little of a spotlight in this episode. They really decided like they were going to make the betrayal of Tumbleton all about Ulf. And then Hugh, they kind of lean on their old friends misunderstanding as a plot device here with Hugh. Because I do agree with you. I think that Hugh will still be branded a traitor and a betrayer because of this. I think Rhaenyra will overreact to the news of what happened in Tumbleton, brand them both betrayers, and essentially that Hugh left his post. He deserted at a time when he shouldn't have. He went to Tumbleton. Vermithor's flying around. It looks bad that Vermithor's there with Silverwing. They're dragon besties. But yeah, I wish we had gotten more of Hugh. It's a weird feeling to go into this being so satisfied with the episode, but also knowing that like this character should have probably played a much bigger part in this.
Yeah, he was always my favorite dragon rider. One of my favorites from Fire and Blood. So I was like,
Yeah,
what's
same,
Hugh doing?
same. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Hugh and Vermithor. Vermithor has had a lot of small shots this season. You know, flying around cities, flying around Tumbleton, flying around the Gullet, but we haven't really. Nothing has even remotely come close to like the scene when Hugh claimed Vermithor, which was like one of the coolest dragon scenes I think in the entire series. So I hope that Vermithor, who's like, you know, I think one of the cooler dragons on the board at the moment, like
Yeah.
Vermithor, like Vhagar, like Caraxes, like Vermithor is a dragon who's got a lot of history, who's an older, more powerful dragon. So they better give Vermithor a spotlight in season 4. That's all I'm saying.
Oh gosh, I don't know where the dragon budget is going to come from. They said there's going to be a whole bunch of dragon stuff this season, and we did get a lot, but not when you picture like, hey, the dragons are coming to roost. Like, okay, it's going to be crazy epic dragons every other episode. And did that really happen? No. Am I mad that didn't happen? I'm not mad, but it's kind of what you told me.
Yeah, totally. There are a few things like that I totally agree with. One of them, so in the House the Dragons Built behind the scenes thing for episode 3, I think, when we see fake Darren and Tessarion is with the army, Ryan Condal, the showrunner, talks about how the characterization of Tessarion matching Darren a little bit, and how Tessarion is a dragon that still has a, quote, great role to play in the story yet to come. So, you hear that at the beginning of the season and you're like, yeah, Tessarion is going to have some cool stuff this season. Yeah. And then we get to the end and Tessarion has literally been locked up since episode 3. Like, we've only seen Darren with Tessarion twice, and both times was in the Sept with Tessarion and chains. So I feel that they've made some promises with the dragons where I'm like, keep those promises. Don't give me another dragon fight that's a bunch of random dragons like beating up on poor old sheep stealer who didn't need this. Was just minding his business. Give me some of the dragons that we haven't seen yet that we need to see more of.
Yeah, hey, we all gotta be honest. That was a nice fight, a nice scuffle between dragons. But we want to see dragons in the air, breathing fire, flying all around. That's what makes a dragon fight feel like a dragon fight.
Yeah, agree. It's weird, it's hard when the show has something like that, but then seemingly cuts things like Vermithor at Tumbleton. It's like, was there an opportunity cost here, or was this strictly a writing decision? Because I mean, there are places we could have used more dragons from the source material that we didn't get them. So that's what makes it such a push and pull. You have anything else you want to say about the vast battle at Tumbleton before we move on?
I do want to say R.I.P. to Lord Ormond Hightower.
Lord, yeah.
He was a great villain, mustache twirling, able to somehow manipulate the board from Tumbleton to King's Landing, probably all across the reach for just one guy. That was awesome to see. And his light may not be forgotten. He lights the way for us.
Nice. Yeah. Ormond, looking back on season 3, he really is going to be one of the things that defines this season, like no question, like just like all of the other big memorable one season characters from Game of Thrones, like Oberyn Martell or Ned Stark, who they got one good season and then they were out. That really felt like it was the case for Ormond and Roddy, even though Roddy got way less screen time than Ormond. It should have felt that way for Roddy all the way through, I think.
Yeah,
but
probably a little bit more.
Probably a little bit more. But I am grateful that he got his big finish here at Tumbleton. Yeah. And what I think this is probably the best battle the show's done. What do you think?
This is probably the best battle, showing it from all these different angles and aspects. Us understanding the battle plan before, then seeing certain aspects of that plan not working, having to go to something else, then seeing that fall apart because of the dragon nobody thought was going to be in the fight. Like this, it may be one of the, like you said, one of the tightest battles where if you really wanted to pick it apart, I can tease off getting all the way to his dragon super fast, a little
Sure.
bit of quick travel, a little
Yeah.
bit, but that's like parsing apart all the minute details.
Yeah, totally. I think it was one of the tightest, most exciting, you know, really fun to watch battles that has happened in not just House of the Dragon, but also it's kind of up there, I think, with a lot of the best from Game of Thrones. Maybe not the best, but like it's in the conversation with the overall like top battles of the franchise, I think. And so I rewatched Rook's Rest right after seeing this for the first time, and I do think, or not Rook's Rest, The Gullet. And I think it's way better than The Gullet. The Gullet is, I'm a little nervous that it won't age super well just because so much of it was a blue screen. And here it wasn't. Like they built the city of Tumbleton and then they wrecked the shit out of it for this battle.
Yeah, it just looks better sometimes. You need those practical effects. You need all the things as much as if you can build it and take it from there. Battle of Gullet's still good, still a good battle in its context, but this was definitely the best one of the season.
Yeah, I agree. All right. There's a few other things that happened in this episode. Let's turn our eyes to those now. Why don't we start with the smaller one of them, which is Harrenhal. So we only got 2 scenes at Harrenhal. The first is with Aemond and Alice Rivers, where Aemond wakes up and thinks, "Ah, shit, my mom poisoned me. I guess I'm truly alone. I'm cursed. Even my own mother wants me dead." And then Alice Rivers is like, "I know a little something about being cursed." And she tells him, pretty wild backstory, that she was the wife of Harren the Black, who is the dude who built Harrenhal like 130 years before this show, who Aegon the Conqueror melted inside his castle during the conquest. That's a pretty wild reveal. What did you make of it?
Was this just like Agatha all along? Because me and my wife had the same thoughts. She was like, "This is just the plot. Her son got injured. Agatha all along. The son was sick. Could do some crazy magic, and the magic didn't work right. The child still died, but they lived on forever and still using magic to do different things." So I'm like, yeah, a little Agatha-y. This plot really, the story came out of nowhere. It was like she said it.
A little bit.
I was like, okay. And then we moved on. Like I don't understand how it's gonna factor back into anything. Was it cool for lore wise to kind of confirm? Yes, but I almost wish they would have left it a little more ambiguous than her just telling the story. And I've learned magic. I can live forever. And now I'm immortal. And then they just kiss. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, right. Yep. I've seen lots of jokes about how Aemon's mommy complex. He's like, "Wait, you're how old?" He's suddenly like, "My betrothed." Yeah. So as a lore, someone who enjoys the lore of Westeros and who nerds out about this, I liked that they tied it all around to Harren the Black. I thought that was cool. I imagine it probably went over a lot of casual watchers' heads because who the hell even is that guy? He's like barely been mentioned at all. Like he's not really relevant to this show whatsoever. I'm a little torn on it because I like that it gives Alice this deeper backstory. The implications are pretty wild for it. That means Alice was around when Aegon melted the castle. So she saw Balerion the Black Dread. That means she was there when Dreamfire laid those eggs. Like there are all sorts of things like that it's like, oh, this means something very different now, knowing Alice Rivers is as old as she is. I am curious what George R. R. Martin makes of this, because we don't know if this came from him or if it's something they made up. Because he leaves Alice Rivers' backstory pretty ambiguous. And I mean, Fire and Blood is an ambiguous book. Doesn't ever really spell things out. But with Alice Rivers, it spells it out even less than usual, because it's kind of one of those intentional mysteries he likes to sprinkle about.
Yeah, that's where I'm like, okay, this seems like something they would add for the show. Like it's alluded to, but to make it so specific, like, oh, she was Black Harren's wife. I'm like, I just wasn't sure how much it meant to everyone who was watching the TV show.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And
Yeah,
and you know,
yeah, just how important the importance of what, and I'm not even sure why is this important, and maybe this is something they'll touch more on when season 4 in those 8 episodes if they can.
yeah, this is another one of those things where I'm like, I don't know how I feel about all the promises y'all keep making. So, the podcast for this episode, the House of the Dragon official podcast, which if you're listening to this podcast, you should probably check that one out too. It's the official podcast of House of the Dragon. They don't have as much fun as we're having, but they do get people on, actors and stuff, and they do interviews with the actors and the writers. So they had Ryan Condal and T. McKell on to talk about this episode. And when they brought up Alice Rivers, they kind of like not backpedaled, but they were like, do we believe her? Like Ryan Condal was like, I believe her and Eamon does, but there are more mysteries. Yeah. And she's really good at presenting the face people need to see. She presented a very different face to Daemon than she is presenting to Aemond. And she survived a very long time, and that's part of that. So they almost like cast doubt on it a little bit. Like, was she telling the truth? Is there more to this story? Which, okay, that's sort of those things where it's like, that's fine. Until you pay this off, I'm like, okay, like, am I supposed to believe the big reveal you just did in your own show? I don't know now.
Like I won't believe it. It's all fake.
Yeah.
But I guess it doesn't compare to the other big reveal at Harrenhal when Aemon was still being a little sad boy until he hears a dragon cry, only to see that it is Zombie Sunfire being ridden by his big brother Aegon.
Loved it. One of the most fun scenes of the entire episode. Tom Glenn Carney just limping up to Aemond. Aemond collapses. It almost seems like he's not sure if he's seeing a vision or not. And then Aemond hits him in the face and he goes, I'm alive, which is just like the most fun line read of the whole episode. Tom Glenn Carney hamming it up. What did you think? What'd you think of this scene?
I enjoyed it. I don't know where anything is going from this point. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to kill my brother, but I'm good. Now we're going to team up and we're going to go find your dragon so you guys can rebond. And then we're going to go to Tumbleton and then King's Landing, then take back Westeros. I'm like, okay, that's a lot of planning. We got 8 more episodes left, guys. I don't know if you guys saw the episode count.
No one has told Aegon and Tom Glenn Carney what the episode count is. They think they've got way more time than they do for all this stuff. Yeah, I was shocked we didn't see Vhagar again this season. Kind of wild to me that Vhagar was in the first 2 episodes, got a big moment in episode 2, and then Vhagar's just gone. And they have a lot of other dragons. I get it. They want to spotlight different ones. And Vhagar has gotten probably as much of a spotlight as almost any dragon on this show. I think Vhagar and Caraxes have probably gotten the most big moments. But yeah, I agree. It is, Aegon's whole thing where he's giving this plan to his younger brother. And, I love the twist here for Aegon that he expects to be enjoying killing his brother, but Aemond is like remorseful and like, ugh, like, why is he like that? Like, this is not how Aegon pictured it at all. And maybe they can find some common ground again, because there's so much other stuff going on that kind of they could be allies in taking it on. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't know. I hope they wrap up Aemond and Aegon like in episode 1 of season 4, because they both have individual things they have to do.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about Harrenhal. I feel like if your character goes there for a main part of their plot, everything just stops, and it feels like there, for at least for me, 3 to 4 wasted episodes with Aemond and him just being there and really like just like Daemon the previous season. Just a dream sequence, something weird happening, and then all comes to reveal. I learned the lesson. I'm a slightly better person, and now let's let the plot continue.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally been almost the exact same, right? Where they go there in episode 2. They take the castle in episode 2. Daemon befriends Simon Strong. Aemond kills Simon Strong. And then they spend the next 6 episodes just holed up at Harrenhal while either in Daemon's case, while the river people are out doing the stuff that was Daemon's book stuff, which was like putting all of the river houses to heal, like doing his own little campaign around the Riverlands to build an army. Daemon mostly stays at Harrenhal while other people do a lot of that stuff. Aemond is really similar. It's the exact same. And I do think this show has a problem with recycling plot beats because Aemond stays at the castle all season. And I like how much they did a good job with the Alice Rivers romance. Like we know there's a romance from the book. We never really get to see it. And they decided they were going to put some focus on that. Fine. But like Vhagar going around and destroying villages, like that's supposed to be Vhagar and Aemond's, you know? So they went the route of Vhagar's just, she wants snacks. So she's doing this.
Yeah, maybe there could have been some rebonding earlier with him teaming up with Alice, and he could still have the thought that I shouldn't have done that to my brother. I need to make amends, and they could have still had that scene just with his dragon, with him maybe doing a little bad village burning things. Like,
yeah, totally. I want to say they could have, instead of that big budget dragon fight, made Aemond reconnect with his dragon in that episode, and then we get a very clear parallel of Aemond and Aegon both getting their dragons back. But yeah, so it's definitely a question what they're going to do with Aemond and Aegon from here. I hope they are not at Harrenhal. We're going to get this is the trouble with Harrenhal, is they do all this stuff, and then next season when we're supposed to get some Harrenhal stuff, because that's where the story goes. They both have it. All roads lead to Harrenhal type thing. I worry that we're going to be just tired of it by then, you know?
Yeah. So it's a thought, but I guess we still got 2 years for them to maybe reconfigure some of those Harrenhal plot lines, so we can feel like that's where we want to be. Like, this is cool again. Make Harrenhal awesome.
Yeah. Yes, totally. And even more than that, I hope that they get Aegon to Dragonstone, because that's where he's got to get for his part of the story. And in the book, he goes there because Sunfire is there, right? So there are rumors Sunfire is at, or a dragon, a mystery dragon is on Dragonstone. And then Aegon kind of sneaks onto the island. It's kind of interesting because they had all this freedom this season to make up a new story for Aegon, because he disappears from the book for like a solid chunk of the story. And they did that, but then they also wrote themselves into another corner here with, now he's got his dragon back. Why does he have to go to Dragonstone? So I'm sure they'll find an answer, but I hope they do sooner rather than later next season.
100%. Unless you want to give us 10 episodes. I'm still putting that on the table, HBO. I know you're listening to me.
10 episode final season has a nice ring to it, you know. Then House of the Dragon, it's 10, 8, 8, 10.
Still fighting.
Yeah, come on, HBO. All right, let's close things out by talking about the queen, Rhaenyra Targaryen, and all the things that happen in King's Landing. This was a big episode for Rhaenyra. She dons some armor. She confronts her allies. She abuses her sister Helaena. Where do you even want to start here, Mark?
You know what? This is where I was like, now what's happening? Because we opened the episode, we have Rhaenyra freaking out after learning that Aegon has come again. Aegon has risen. What's going to happen? And then we get this turn in there to dark Rhaenyra of, kicking out Mysaria, which I love. What happens with Helaena force feeding her, putting Baela back in line, which Baela was a little disrespectful. She was disrespectful. And then we got this, we just see Rhaenyra all of a sudden spiraling the opposite way from having an anxiety attack to damn near verbally attacking the small folk, which is what I love. I wanted this Rhaenyra. I feel like we should have gotten this Rhaenyra probably after episode 3, when everything was falling apart around her, and we got to see it from an anxiety-inducing part of her, like, how am I going to get all of this in line?
Yeah, this is the Rhaenyra that I've been waiting to see too, and I do think that they nailed it in this episode. Like, this episode as an episode, I really like how they handled, they really just let her go off in terms of every interaction. She's just being her worst self. So the Baela thing, like, Baela was talking back to the queen. Baela's had enough. It's also her stepmom. Important to I know Rhaenyra doesn't like to make a point of it, but kind of important to remember. And then, Rhaenyra just cold, grabs her face, uses the majestic plural on her, as your sister reminded us or whatever. And then similar with Helena, where Helena gets her chance to tell Rhaenyra, like, here's this beetle that lives off shit that I think is beautiful, that's only in King's Landing, and you don't care about it because you only like ugly things and not this beautiful shit beetle. And then of course she force feeds her. I do want to ask you something. So obviously, you know all about George R. R. Martin's blog posts that caused so much drama a few years ago. I'm going to assume most viewers and listeners of our podcast are aware of it because we've talked about it quite a bit over the years. In that blog post, the first thing that George drew attention to was Maelor, which is Helena and Aegon's son, who was missing, who wasn't at Blood and Cheese, and how that has this big, butterfly effect that was going to go forward. We were going to lose things like Bitterbridge, which he was right. We did lose Bitterbridge. For show only watchers, you don't know what that means. If you read Fire and Blood, you'll read all about Bitterbridge, and you'll realize, that there's some pretty intense drama that happens in that town. But the thing he said that stood out to me for this episode was that Helena's suicide. So trigger warning, we're going to talk about Helena here a little bit, and her choice that she makes at the end of the episode. He felt like the outline he was shown for Helena had her taking her life without any real good enough reason, in his opinion. Whereas in the book, she'd been spiraling already because the son she picked, she had all this guilt from picking one of her children in Blood and Cheese to live. The assassins killed the other one. So she's saddled with that. And then Mysaria, we found out from George in this blog post, this is the canon version of events. Mysaria tells Helena, your other son is now dead in the most horrific manner you can imagine. And then Helena takes her life. So they couldn't do that here. And I assume... so this is the question I want to put to you. They had this scene with Mysaria where Mysaria tells Helena, you're never going to be free. Your kid's always going to be a hostage. It's after Mysaria gets the boot from Rhaenyra. She decides she's going to throw a wrench in Rhaenyra's plans by showing Helena a little kindness. Do you think they added that as damage control is my question for you. Do you think that was in their original plan?
I think that was in their original plan for some conversation like that. I don't think it was planned for her to be pregnant. Like, I don't think really? She was in the show. I don't think she was going to be pregnant at all until George made that. Of course, I could be wrong, but until George made that statement on his blog post, they're like, how can we add an element of Maegor to make it seem like this would happen? I think the main thing that kind of it lessened the blow for me was, it made me feel like a little iffy about her suicide. Of course, you never know what somebody's going through mentally, and her thinking of her unborn child and how it'd be a prisoner, possibly put to the gallows if it's born a boy. But she still had her daughter there in the castle. Like in the books, daughter's taking the storms in. So all her children are gone. 2 of her children are dead at this point. She doesn't know if she'll ever see her daughter again, and then other battles are happening and whatnot, and that's when she does take her life. In this instance, only if her child is born a boy, her daughter's still 2 rooms away. And like, what happens if she looks outside her window and sees mommy try to fly by herself? Like, I don't know. Something about this was missing something.
Yeah, I think they did a good job with, showing Helena going through it in King's Landing. Obviously you can only nitpick the mental, hurdles someone goes through in that type of situation so much because it's so personal. But I think your point about Jaehaera is a pretty good one, because the whole thing is Helena as a mother. How does Helena care about her children? She was racked with guilt over this thing that happened to one of her children, and then something happens to the other one, and that pushes her over the edge. And like you said, she doesn't know if she'll ever see Jaehaera again. Jaehaera is gone too. that's very different than it's like she's making the choice to leave her daughter alone under Rhaenyra's power, instead of having any sort of pull to take any of Rhaenyra's anger or affect the situation in any way. Like it's a little weird too because we just saw Alicent try to get Helena to abandon Jaehaera like 3 episodes ago, and Helena wouldn't do it, and she got upset when Alicent tried to trick her into doing it. So, and now she's doing it of her own free will in a way. So it's definitely not. It's weird to call Fire and Blood airtight because it is purposefully not airtight, but the sequence of events makes a little bit less sense for Helena, and I think it's pretty clear too. So they also, I think, filmed Helena. The little shot of her on the spikes was a little weird to me because it's like it just felt like disconnected from the rest of the topography, if that makes sense. Like, where are those? I guess the spikes are in a moat outside her window. Like, that's where they're supposed to be. But like, we know from behind the scenes, that's the very last thing they filmed, like in reshoots, I assume. So yeah, that's, I don't know. Something about the sequence, it was a little weird to me, even though it was very affecting. And I do ultimately think they did it as well as they could have with the corners they'd written themselves into.
Yeah. It's just probably just a hard workaround with Helena to try to make that all fit.
The pregnancy is interesting. So you think she wasn't pregnant in season 2?
I don't think they planned for her to be pregnant in season 2. I think that was, and maybe they would have came to that conclusion of let's have her be pregnant. Could it possibly be Maelor? Could we possibly get him? Or they saw what George R. Martin wrote and they're like, what if we just tease it and then we'll pull it away? We're not getting Maelor. We're right along like that happen. I'm like, I don't think you were.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. Because I think in his blog post, he even said, like, originally they were going to have Maelor, then they were going to have her get pregnant and give birth to Maelor. Then they didn't even have that, was kind of what he said. And Maelor wasn't going to be in it at all. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think they would have hinted at it in season 2 if she was. I think there have been a few points where House of the Dragon has left itself out to cut different characters and then changed its mind. Darren's another one. Because we know that there was a line about Darren in season 1 at the Driftmark episode where the whole family's on Driftmark. Young Aemond was going to ask about his younger brother Darren, and they cut the line. So I think that was leaving the out of we could cut Darren. And then they changed their minds, and eventually we're like, we'll get him in there. We'll have him stand next to a dragon for a season. It's fine. So yeah, I guess the last thing we should talk about is Rhaenyra and the High Septon.
Yes. Even a little bit about Alan of Hall, Alan Valeria. He's drinking the juice of whatever Rhaenyra's got. He's tasted the power, and he's willing to do whatever it can to be seated next in the room where it happens. And then we have Rhaenyra Targaryen, who's that was a cool scene, seeing her in that what do you call it, a chariot, the little thing to carry her up into the sept with her son Prince Joffrey, and just like telling him like this is the moment you want to tell him all about the Aegon's dream and whatnot before you go up and essentially kill the High Septon, the person who's ruling the faith of the Seven and whatnot.
Yeah. Yep, they carry her there. I think it's a litter, a palanquin, something like that. Carry her there in the litter across the city. Really cool. I like that Joffrey's awake this episode.
Finally.
huge fan of that for him. Give that kid a line at some point, but at least he's got his eyes open.
He'll be forced to next season.
Yeah, they will. He's got to have lines next season. It's crazy seeing how differently House of the Dragon treats its child actors compared to like Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, because I'm pretty sure that kid is like around the same age as Dexter Soul Ansel, who obviously we saw give a massive performance in the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. So not that Joffrey would ever be that memorable as a character anyway, but give him a line at least. Yeah. So Rhaenyra in the Sept, I thought I felt like that was like her biggest villain moment of the season. Like she felt villainous. Some of the line reads were like she's almost like sneering at the High Septon, like, you answer to bigger gods than his, or whatever she says. Like, ooh. I felt bad for Alan. Like, Alan's kind of a victim here too. Like, she's manipulating him to do what she wants, and that is
Yeah.
the most blasphemous thing you can possibly do. Murder essentially the Pope.
Yeah, killing the Pope, never a good thing, especially when during a war with somebody who's deeming this religion to be not as high. If the faith of the seven didn't matter, why'd you go all the way to the sept to kill the High Septon? If
Yeah.
those you wanted that little bit of power that person could have granted you, and when he denied it to you, now you want to I'll just kill you. You don't want to legitimize me, then I will unlegitimize your religion, at least in my eyes and my followers' eyes. And
Yeah,
I'm not sure who that's going to work for.
I don't think it's going to work for anyone. So before this episode aired, an image leaked. A website put up an image of Rhaenyra in armor earlier than it should have been, and then HBO, I'm pretty sure, had them take it down. And I saw so many people like making either loving Rhaenyra in the armor or making fun of it. Like, what are we doing here? Like, with bad theories about like she's going to Tumbleton or whatever. I think what the show did with Rhaenyra in the armor is fantastic because it's almost ironic. Like, it doesn't make her look good. It doesn't make her look strong in this scene, even though like it's a cool look. Like, the armor itself is beautiful. And like the costuming is fantastic, but the way she acts in it. So she goes there intending to basically hijack this mob that has gathered outside the Sept, because they're all there to hear the High Septon preach about Aegon coming back and being the one true king. And she's like, you're going to anoint me instead in front of all these people. And when he says no, like you said, she kills him. Then she goes out and it's just like, I'll just talk to the crowd myself. And then she just starts talking about the Song of Ice and Fire prophecy on Maine like a lunatic.
Yes.
So that's the thing where like her standing there in the armor, like very Visenya-ish, almost becomes like, I don't want to say silly, but like she thinks it makes her look strong. It really makes her look the opposite to so many people, I think, who were watching her and listening to her talk about a threat in the far north. Like, Torrin Manderly's like, I live in the north. Like, I'm from the north. I don't know that you know what you're talking about.
A few wildlings. I don't think we need to send a brigade up for that. That speech in that moment, and then started speaking High Valyrian. The people are like, that's just gibberish to all these small folk. We don't know what you're saying. To give away a secret that you've held in your family for over 130 years, to just tell them, like, it sounds crazy, it sounds ridiculous. Of course you believe this because you have the dragons, you understand there's certain magical elements, but we don't know anything about this. You want us to just take your word? There's crumpkins and gremlins everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't the moment. And like you said, on Manderly's face and Orwell's face, they're like, what's going on here? And if they're looking like that, I can only imagine what some of the other maybe lords and ladies in the city, knights hearing this speech, the knights behind her. It's like, what are we fighting for right now?
Yep. And you have to imagine that it probably is not going to land with the small folk the way she thinks it does. And like, I imagine things are going to go south for Rhaenyra pretty immediately next season, because so between murdering the High Septon and Helena committing suicide on essentially the same day, in the book, this leads to riots in King's Landing. Well, the Helena does. I'm pretty sure Rhaenyra doesn't kill the High Septon in the book, but she does clash with the faith in different ways. So yeah, I wouldn't expect her speech to really sway anybody. Like, Rhaenyra is going to fall on bad times pretty fast in 2 years when the show comes back.
We got time to see how they're gonna handle that, and so I mean I really hope to see like how they're gonna handle King's Landing, because there's just so many different plot lines going on in that city at that moment that I'm like, wow, how are we going to fit all this in this time frame? The different pools, the different factions going on. There's going to be a lot of focus on King's Landing.
Yeah, totally. I am very excited for the stuff coming in season 4. Both excited and dreading it, because, this is a tragedy, And there are a lot of main character deaths that are going to happen in the show's final season. So prepare your hearts, people. So Mark, as we start to wind down here, my question for you is, this finale, I think, might be one of the, it's unique in that most Game of Thrones seasons have their big episode on episode 9, or the penultimate episode, whatever number that is. Even House of the Dragon season 2, it was the Red Sowing. Episode 7 was kind of its big episode, and then the finale was a little weird thing that so many people didn't like because it was set up for stuff that would happen 2 years from now. The thinking about like finales that went big, like the Children, the Watchers, or the Winds of Winter. I feel like this is one of the best finales for a season of a Game of Thrones show we've maybe gotten, maybe since the Winds of Winter. I don't know.
No, I would agree on that. I think this is probably one of the stronger finales out of all the series since season 6 of Game of Thrones. So
Yeah,
I'm 100% with you on that.
cool. Yeah, it's, it doesn't redeem everything for this season. This season has still had its ups and downs, but I think, it ended pretty strong for most people aside from Hugh. So, do you have?
And besides for Allison, who is still out in the forest, looking at
butterflies. I keep forgetting she's in this episode, which is perfect. Thank you, writers, for being confident enough to leave Allison off screen for an episode. I missed you, Olivia Cook, but we didn't need her here.
She got her one scene to shoehorn her in, but it was in relation to her daughter's death. So you got to see the magic touch her wherever she is in the Riverlands or Crownland. So we'll see her next season.
Yes, we will. I'm sure quite a lot, which is fine. It's the final season of the show. We should see Allison Hightower quite a lot. Hopefully they have some things for her to do other than make out with her son. So on that note, is there anything else you want to say about the House of the Dragon season 3 finale before we close it out? Because as we typically do, we've gone about as long as the episode.
I think this was a good episode, and like I said earlier in our podcast episode, there were some characters I felt like did get a little bit of shortchanged, but from what we got from being at the Sept and King's Landing to the battle at Tumbleton, I had a good time watching it, and I want some more House of the Dragon. Bring us the hot D.
Yes, more hot D. I hate to wait the 2 years, but this is the last 2-year wait we're gonna have for this show. So I want them to take their time, make that last season as good as they can possibly make it. I think they proved with season 3 that when they don't have a bunch of monkey wrenches thrown their way, like getting told to cut the season down by 2 episodes and then a strike, they can make a really good season of television. Still got some things where it's a little weird in conversation with the source material, but as a whole, season 3 was so much stronger than season 2, and I think really showed that they could stick the landing with this show and could do a really good end game. So next episode of this podcast, we are going to talk more about the season as a whole. So look out for that next week. But yeah, for now, the House of the Dragon season 3 finale, The Treasons at Tumbleton, is out, and we had a blast watching it.
Yes. Thank you all for watching us go about and talking about it.
Yeah. And Mark, always a pleasure breaking this down with you. I can't believe we're at the end of season 3. Pretty surreal. But yeah, so for all of you out there listening, watching, viewing, wherever, Take the Black, subscribe, follow us, give us likes and reviews, all that sort of stuff on your podcast platform of choice. If you want to read more about these shows, check out winteriscoming.net, where we're writing about House of the Dragon an obscene amount basically every day, as well as lots of other fantasy and sci-fi books, shows, movies, all that sort of stuff. Mark, where can people find you?
Hey, go over to TikTok. You can find me at House of Nettles, House_of_Nettles. You see this space, you're in the right place. Also on TikTok. I already said TikTok, on Instagram and YouTube as well.
Hell yeah. He said TikTok twice because you should really go there and find him there first, and then all the other places. Yes. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the Treasons at Tumbleton because I know you're going to rewatch it. I know I'm going to rewatch it. Maybe I'll go do that right now. So till next time, we'll see you in Westeros.